beautiful park about 4 hours.
Oh, isn't that good one? Probably most of it.
Right up miles from a mile.
That's your mom, and then you check the shot.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna bring some shoes.
It's not a word for the shower. Change the head.
Yeah, I've read a lot of that. Change the shower head. But the pumps only gonna do 45. Pumps gonna take there about 45, 65 PSI.
He told me to, what's the good place there? We're hooking on city, you know. He's from the kind of pressure. So they can't put no people in that. I know.
I've got mine's adjustable regulator.
Yeah,
I set it for it.
Yeah.
And I'm in college. Back then,
Yeah.
Just I know.
He sure did. He came now. He said, "Oh, you know, you're got the tank. You know, water, line,
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone this morning?
Good.
Oh.
Chilly?
Oh.
Am I ready for Santa Claus? Seems like it comes quicker and quicker every year.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's BJ. Most of you have seen all of us before, but this is Craig. He's passing out a little handout we got. Today we'll spend some time talking about the electrical system in these RVs, kind of how they work. More importantly, how to help you all manage them to maximize your energy that you have. So what Craig is passing out there is just first and foremost kind of gives you an idea of what some of the appliances and items draw as far as amperage in your RV, as far as what kind of energy they use. Now, where that becomes important is a good portion of your travel trailers are going to be 30 amp. And a good portion of your fifth wheel motorhomes will be 50 amp. Some of your travel trailers will be 50 amp. But you've got either 30 amps or 50 amps to utilize, and that guide will kind of help you as you're deciding what you're using and when. For instance, there may be a time that it's better to run your water heater on LP versus electric. You'll leave more available amps in your amp bank, if that makes sense. We'll touch on a few things today. We'll open it up for you all to if you've got questions. And we'll do our best to answer those to the best of our ability. Sometimes we might just, we may have to research some of these things ourselves. So just to kind of get started, probably if you take one thing from this today, it would be that this right here, your surge protector, that is going to be your best investment on protecting your trailer. That's going to tell you right as you pull up to your campground or wherever it is you're hooking up, when you plug this in at that pedestal, there's a problem with the electric. It's going to tell you right there before you connect your trailer. So that would be, like I say, that's kind of the if there's one thing you take from it, would be that's the case. So I brought some testing items in here. We got some things off the shelf to kind of touch on with you. And from a service writer, I'll kind of give you some things that I hear from time to time on the phone. And I'll start with one of the more common calls is, Hey, I've got my trailer here at my house, and my buddy, he kind of knows how to wire, run electricity. He hooked up a plug for me, and I can't get anything to come on. I don't have any lights. I don't have any television. Nothing. This is a 30 amp plug, like most of your travel trailers will plug into, or anything that's in an RV that's 30 amp. Very similar to a dryer plug you would see at Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. The difference is the dryer plug is 220 volts, and this is only 110. But you can hook it up, or you can hook it up to 220 volts, but you would never want to do that because that RV's designed to run on 110. And what happens, they plug that in to the source of electricity that their buddy hooked up for them. They got 220 volts running to that trailer, and the first thing it does is hits that converter and blows the capacitors out of it, and then
That is not a warrantable item.
And then you're on the phone to us, and it's expensive. It's a big fix. Your hope is that it stopped there, but it doesn't always. You know, I mean, we've replaced refrigerators,
Refrigerator boards, microwaves, takes out the microwave.
television. I mean, it can tear a lot up when that happens. So,
I've seen electricians get it wrong too.
and it's easy to
They're
do.
not familiar with the RV, so they say it's 220. With that plug, it's one hot, one ground, one neutral. That's it. 3 wires.
So I tell you that if you do have 30 amp campers and you do want to have a plug put in at your home, do not let them convince you to wire the 30 amp plug to 220 volts. It is 110 volt only on the 30 amp. Now the 50, a different story. 50 amp is, you've got 2 legs of 110 running. So, and I don't, you know, I mean, we don't have you here to get too technical of breaking into electricity, but you know, that, like I say, that is a phone call that I get a lot of, and it's something that I would tell you to, you know, try to protect you all as well. Another thing that I would bring up that is helpful. A lot of you will have these on your trailer. This is a battery shutoff switch. How many of you got these on your trailer? A lot of them will come with them. We add them to a lot of trailers. So the ones that don't have them, where you would wish that you had one of these would be, for example, come here for service. A lot of times we'll have folks come to pick their trailer up. We maybe have had it done and called them, and they're out of town or something, and it may be 3, 4, 5 days before they get, or longer, before they get here and get it picked up. And while that's going on, it's sitting out there on our lot with no battery shut off. And then we get it here, we put it out here for them to pick it up, and pretty soon they come back in and they say, hey, my battery's dead. We got a jump box, which we do. We'll go out there and hook it up and get it hooked up. And a lot of them will think, well, why would that battery go dead just sitting there? You know your LP detectors, little CO2 detectors, well, those draw power all the time. And it will run that battery down eventually. And it don't take too many days.
Usually 3 to 4 days, and that battery's getting down. So
They'll start beeping at you when they're getting low. They do. We change those for a couple different reasons, but the point is, times like that will be when you're going to have a disconnect. When you're going to store it unplugged somewhere, and you don't want any draw on your battery whatsoever. That's where a disconnect would come in handy.
Keep in mind, if you have that disconnect and you're plugged in at home, if that disconnect is turned, how are you gonna say it,
Off or
on,
if you've got the line broke or disconnected,
and you're plugged in, it will not charge your batteries.
charge your battery.
So keep that in mind.
We get a lot of phone calls about converters. There's a lot of confusion between a converter and an inverter. I don't.
Does anybody not know what the difference between a converter and inverter is? So a converter will take your 12 volt and allow you to use it when you're plugged into 110. Also, your battery charger charges your battery. An inverter allows you to run a 110 appliance on 12 volt. So a lot of like the fifth wheel behind you here may have a residential fridge. A lot of times they'll have that hooked up to the inverter. That way when you're traveling down the road, that residential fridge is working, even though it's a 110 fridge, it's working off the battery. So that's where the inverter and converter, how they differ.
Not all trailers are going to have an inverter. Matters of fact, it's usually going to be on the bigger, for sure, fifth wheels, and some travel trailers, definitely motorhomes. Most of those are going to have an inverter. You can take the DC or the 12 volt and switch it to 110 like you have in your home.
Some of them that have solar packages will have an inverter in there to be able to run. They'll have a couple outlets in there that you can run off a 12 volt. They don't have the whole camper wired for that, but they'll have a select number of outlets that run off the inverter. So if you need to plug, I'm thinking CPAP machines. If you're boondocking and you got a CPAP machine, you can plug that into that outlet and be able to sleep comfortably without somebody smothering your sleep because you're snoring.
Converter, most every trailer, whether it be a travel trailer, fifth wheel, I really think you'd have to get pretty primitive or homemade to not have a converter.
Even pop-ups, they've got converter. So.
And that is taking your AC power, or when you're plugged into shore power, and it's bringing it in, and it hits this, switches it over to 12 volt, which does a couple things. One, it charges your battery, and two, it assists the battery as you're running your lights. And you can go down that second page that we kind of split some things up and give you an idea of what draws on the 12 volt side or the DC side and what draws on the AC side. So,
and always have a good battery in your camper. A bad battery or no battery at all, it will operate with no battery, but it makes that converter work even harder.
Big load on this little thing here. And as we discuss batteries, see here, I got a lithium up here. We can go over lead acid, and I know in the winterization seminar we touched on lead acid more than anything, of removing them from the trailer, specifically in the winter months, putting them in a controlled environment with a full charge. That's your best maintenance for your lead acid. But more and more, we're getting questions about lithium ion. We're switching units over to lithium ion.
Gotta make sure your converters are set up to dual charge. They call them auto detect. Some of the older campers don't have the auto detect, so I'd say around 2021 maybe. You have to check. They start switching over to the auto detect, so that way for the people that do go with lithium, you don't have to change out your converter.
Change your converter.
And that's something, if we had the model number, if you ever are interested, we get the model number off your converter, we'll be able to tell if it's an auto detect or not.
In the line of batteries, lithium ion. Here's another item that is, gosh, the difference in phone calls we have about that today versus 2 years ago is incredible. RV business is like everything else. Solar power is becoming more and more prevalent. Folks, a common question we've got, so you'll get these trailers and some of them will come solar prep, some of them will have a panel. I see this Cougar here has a panel on it. Usually when you get them or you purchase them from us, if they are, as this Cougar is with the panel on, pretty well set up to be self-sufficient, to keep the battery charged, maybe run some lights. It's not.
Not gonna run your air conditioner.
You're not gonna just go and camp, and as long as there's sunlight, anything you want to power will run. Yes, sir.
Okay, you don't have your 12-volt refrigerator on this. How does that 12-volt refrigerator go into the equation of battery? And how long your battery's gonna run?
I mean, it kind of depends, but
I haven't done too well.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess and say, what do you think, maybe a day and a half, 2? It kind of depends on what else is drawn from it.
What else you've got drawing? You're talking about if you're camping and not using anything, I mean.
If you just park, like I brought it over here when you guys worked on it one time, and I think it stayed overnight, and the next day I picked it up, it dead. I checked the battery was good, and I wasn't running anything else other than the refrigerator and the LP sensor.
Yeah, and then a lot of times people will forget the TV booster. That draws as well.
But I shot a couple.
Radio clocks, those are minimal, but I mean, your radio's always looking for power. But I mean, just with an LP detector, you're looking at usually 3 to 4 days if the battery's fully charged. So we'd have to look up what model fridge and see what the draw is on it.
Same thing
Go
from
for it.
that.
So
But we do expand the solar system, or the solar panels. The more panels you have, and the more batteries you have to collect and store the energy, the more options you're going to have on solar. It is not an end-all, be-all. If you want the RV to function to its full capacity, you're going to need shore power to get it to do that.
What I was getting to, and I kind of lost my thought. I've got mine came with a small solar panel on it, and when I had before, we could add the solar panel on the pop-up. Can you add more solar to that one without a major issue, or am I just stuck with what it's got?
As long as there's,
I would have.
yeah, we'd have to get up there and see what we got for roof space.
Not a lot.
As far as
Yeah,
where to put it.
Enough we could add,
But
what I had on the other one.
very possible that it could be. There again, we'd have to dig in a little more to.
Because that little one, it doesn't keep up with anything.
Yeah. We've even had some that are portable that we sell.
How many batteries do you have on here?
It's just one, it's just a wolf pup. I got the smaller one.
I would, if it were me and you're looking to do that, if you're gonna upgrade the panel, I would put a second battery on it.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't know if the converter and all that would handle the second.
That's, yeah, I mean, the converter, as long as it's an auto detect, or I mean, well, it doesn't matter, the converter is fine. But you have to make sure you got solar charger and all that, so it doesn't overcharge the batteries and all that. So yeah, it'd be something we'd have to look into later, see what. Yes.
The comment about the solar panels, do you line those up in series or parallel? Or
I mean, they all hook together.
you can hook it together?
They all hook together and then just go down to the charge controller does everything.
As far as, I think what you're gonna do, they have to be placed right side by side by side.
Well, if you've got a 100, can you not add a 300 watt to it?
As long as your charge controller and
then
whatever.
you build up to the point where, and that gadget that I won was that last year. I got a 300 watt.
I've slept since
It's
then.
that Furion power
Well-
pack. But, that's a blessing when the power goes out,
Yeah.
because you can charge it.
Sure. It
Just
is
handle
helpful. It is a helpful feature to have to have it, as far as,
But charge, they have different size charge controllers. So you'd have to, for however many watts of panels you want to put on there, you're gonna have to make sure your charge controller can handle that as well.
And that was
Yeah.
kind of the question. too.
Yeah, you gotta make sure, all the panels can line up, they all run together, but they all go to that charge controller. So that has to be able to handle.
So essentially, that Furion power pack is a storage for what comes off of the panel.
Portable panel, yeah.
A question.
Yeah.
On your lithium battery, is there a charger detect that tells, keep from overcharging that battery? Like, any more lithium batteries, they don't want them 100% charged.
Yeah, there's an app to download for these. And I believe that's all built in.
Into the battery? Or?
Yes, here, yes.
Okay.
you know, we kind of work with our manufacturer a little bit on those. They all got heaters in them.
We've got heaters in them as well.
Okay.
That's something that if you do look at lithium, make a difference if they do have internal automatic heaters or not. Helps prolong their life.
And on the lead acid, keep in mind a dead battery will freeze and bust. So make sure if you're going to leave your battery in there during the winter, make sure it's fully charged before you disconnect it or whatever, so that way it doesn't freeze. Make sure you check your water level, but a dead battery will freeze. Back earlier when we were talking about the call you get where, hey, the jacks aren't working, a lot of these new campers have the new, with the Lippert leveling system. They're real finicky on 12 volt. If you get below, what is it, 11, it's like 11.2,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's-
They don't like to work. Those panels, leveling jacks don't like to work. So
Relay the trip kick.
you gotta have that good 12 volt, especially for the leveling systems.
Something else, and this is a phone call we get a lot of. Hey, I've got my camper at my house and I've got it plugged into the garage, and can't get my air conditioner to keep running. It just comes on, runs for a little while, and then it goes out. Oh, here we purchase a trailer. There's a starter kit that we get, and it includes this little pigtail here. And that's meant for you to take your trailer plug it in here, and then plug this into a regular 15 amp household outlet like all of us have in our home. That is designed for you to be able to assist the system in running your slides out, help get your refrigerator cooled off before you go on a trip.
Keeps your battery charged.
Yes, keep your battery charged. What it is not designed to do is for you to fire that air conditioner up while you're running on this adapter, because your weakest point in that circuit is your 15 amp connection there. It is not designed to carry the amount of amperage needed to run that air conditioner, and it will not function the way it's supposed to function. So that's a fairly common call, and something I want to share with you all.
Get a lot of questions. Can you use, like I've got a 50 amp adapter or a surge protector, and the campsite's only got 30. Can you use your adapters? Yes, you can use your 50 to 30 adapters with the surge protectors. So you don't have to have a 50 amp and a 30 amp. I mean, if you want to buy two, I'm okay with that, but you don't have to. You can use those adapters.
What he's saying, if you pull into a spot and it has 50 amp only, and you have a 30 amp camper, and you use one of our adapters, and you get here, wherever you get it, you plug into that 50 and go down to that 30. The beginning of this, I was telling you about how the 50 is 220 volt and the 30 is 110, and that still remains a fact. But what that adapter does is it drops one leg of the 110 and takes it down to where it will function properly with your 30 amp camper. But again, the jewel right there is an important thing.
There are two. I mean, you can get one that's hardwired that stays in your camper if you got room where your electrical system's at, your converter. But most people, I'd say 96% of people go with the portables. You can get ones that just tells you, if you've got open ground, open neutral, real simple. Recommended for pop-ups or, maybe a real small travel trailer. Or you bump up to the ones that have the electronic protection. These essentially will, if there's a low voltage situation, it will cut power off your camper. So if you're not there, it'll cut power off once it's safe. I think there's at least 120-second delay. So it does its checks. It also allows for the head pressure to come down the air conditioner, and then it'll kick everything back on. So if you've got pets, in your camper while you're gone, you don't have to worry about them being hot because it's 100 degrees outside. Or like my kids, the Hostess donuts are melting inside there because it's too hot. It'll kick everything back on. The nice thing with this brand here is if it's taken too many strikes to it or the board goes out in it, $40-50, you can replace the board in it. Open it up, you can replace it yourself. So it's not a disposable surge protector.
There's another phone call we get fairly often. My outlets are working, my television won't come on, I can't get my microwave to power up, I've got no 110. Most of these trailers are equipped with at least one GFCI outlet. And the majority, if not all of the other outlets run right through that GFCI. And a lot of the times the manufacturers are pretty nice and they put the reset outlet close to the bathroom sink or the kitchen sink. Boy, those guys can get creative sometimes. I don't know if they get in a bad mood or what. We found them in storage compartments and different, but that, if you're ever out and you just lose all 110, you still got lights coming on, that would be my suggestion of your first check. Is go and see if you can reset that GFCI.
I've seen them under the master bedroom on the platform. They've got an outlet underneath the mattress there. I've seen them put them down there before too. So.
You just like to smack sometimes some of the creation that they did with that. But that's a common call, and fortunately that was usually a pretty easy fix, but it can cause some aggravation.
Sometimes if you reset it and it pops again, check your water heater, your heating element. Usually that means that the water's been turned on without any water. So that's why when like one of our previous seminars, when you get to the campground and you get set up, that's why I always tell people to turn their water on first before you plug in. Because if you left that switch on, at least when you put water in there, then you don't have to worry about an element burning out. So that element shorts out, and it'll cause the GFCI to trip. Yes, sir.
I got a question. Now you brought that up. How about the tankless water heaters? Are they that sensitive, or do they have sensors that they don't have water and it won't come on?
So that, as far as plugging in, I am not aware of a tankless one. Blowing an outlet or element. I haven't heard that complaint on any of the tankless.
So you don't have electric on the anyway, but gas, right?
Right.
I was just
It's
curious.
just,
I mean, I always put the water on first, but I just thought, what if you mess up?
That there.
The tankless is a little different animal than the normal 6 gallon or 10 gallon or whatever we got. No, I haven't heard that.
Even on the biggest class A out there, 50 amp, it's still really just two legs of 110. So you got two different circuits to get more amperage. There is nothing out there that truly has 220 in it. I mean, you can't run a 220 dryer.
No, all your appliances will be 110. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, and you'll see, some of these coaches have got three, 4 air conditioners on them. So,
And you're right, when you get into the guts of the 50 amp, you can see the two legs come in, and then they build the circuits off.
yeah, they've got generators, or they've got everything separated in there, and all that wiring that, you've only got certain things running on this leg, certain things running on this leg. So that's why sometimes you'll notice if you're running to the same thing, they trip, or I can run this and this together, but it doesn't. Well, it's not on the same circuit as this, or vice versa.
But yes, there's none of them that are equipped with 220 outlets, or at least not from the factory. If somebody gets in there and starts wiring themselves, that's on them. What else? What else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Should I be able to open my slide outs with just my battery?
Yes.
Yes.
There should be that 12 volt.
Now, are you gonna run them out and in and out? Let's say that thing's sitting there parked, you got your battery shut off, and you go turn it on and run it out, back in, and do that numerous times without it getting a charge somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be limited on how much you can do it, but yes, it should.
It's more for when I'm traveling. If I pull up the reps off something, I've had trouble sliding the slide out.
You should be charging your battery while you're driving down the road.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you're all.
You have a travel trailer or fifth wheel? What do you have?
No, it's a bumper pull.
Okay. So yeah,
Your charge point is going to be as you're driving, your alternator's charging your battery. The reason I say as you're driving, it used to be you were plugged in and the engine was running on your tow vehicle. You were charging the battery on.
not even running, because you could leave it, get parked somewhere for the night or whatever, and people would leave their 7-ways plugged in while they're sleeping back there, and it would drain the battery.
Drain the tow vehicle
That
back.
happened to me before.
Okay.
I spent the night at a motel and my truck was dead the next morning, or my refrigerator.
Some of these newer trucks, and this is fairly recent, some of them, the charge wire doesn't get hot until the transmission's in drive, to keep that from, keep pulling the energy out of it overnight. But yes, as long as you're driving and you're recharging.
Now, some of them you had to put a fuse in the fuse box, so it just depends on where you got your camper at. Right here.
No.
See?
They were here.
But depends on where you got. They should always check that, with your brake controller, make sure that you got, charge wire. Some of the trucks have to have a fuse in there in the right spot, the fuse panel, to make sure that all the wiring's there. It just has to have the fuse in it.
Okay.
So if you're still having a problem with it, that might be something
All right.
to check out.
Anyone else? Yes.
So when you're first backing in on a bumper pull, you've got a power jack, is it okay to leave the 7?
As you're
And let the jack pull off of that, or does it pull off the battery?
So if you
What's best there?
did
Okay,
unhook
sure.
from the 7-way, at that point your jack would be pulling off the battery on the trailer.
It should just be pulling off the trailer anyway.
Okay.
Your truck just charges.
Just charges.
It shouldn't be drawing off of your
Truck.
If it's drawing off your truck battery, there's a problem. Yeah, it shouldn't do that.
But I think your question when you first get into your campsite, should you stay plugged in, or unless you just camped across the street from where you started you should have had enough drive time to have that battery fully charged when you get there. And yes, it should have enough power. You know, if the health of the battery is good, it should run that jack for you. Yes.
You just brought something up. Last time I picked mine up, it was dead. Jack wouldn't run up and down. Hooked up to 7-way, and I ran it up and down off the truck. Was that bad?
You know, it's putting juice back to the,
Okay,
back
well,
to
you
the
said
bat.
it shouldn't. You got
No,
my attention.
it's charging your battery. It's putting juice to your battery, so your jack's running off your battery.
Yeah.
So you got juice
So what
going.
you're saying, it's not a separate circuit. I got you.
Yeah.
Who else?
When you're upgrading to lithium, like on a big Class A, I know the whole battery isolation manager piece got to be changed for lithium for the alternator. But is it smart to go ahead and upgrade the alternator, or is that not really necessary?
Good question. We don't do any of the chassis work here.
I know.
I've not heard a lot about that, but again, you're getting on a fine line there of an area that we're not, you know, on the chassis side, we just don't work with the chassis side.
We put lithium in motorhomes, but we haven't done anything with the alternators really.
Yeah, I know the easy fix is just swap out the BIM, but I'm just trying to still understand the alternator piece in that. I don't want to burn it up in between here.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, we'd have to. That'd be more of a chassis thing, I think. What's the chassis on?
The F-35 or 53 or big
So you
PJ4.
run
That's on a gas,
you got
F
diesel or gas?
Ford V10.
Yeah. They'd always ask me what the alternator size was, and I really don't know. And I'm not looking to upgrade. I just didn't know if that was how weak that point is. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Ran into him. And I mean, like I mentioned, we've switched a number of motorhomes over to lithium. That side of it hasn't come up.
Any other questions? You guys are all experts.
I have a receptacle that is in the side of my camera that doesn't work. And I pull it out, take a wire to the fire. Everything else works, just one receptacle. Everything works. So, see the receptacle maybe?
If it's just one,
You got power on the wires?
Yeah, I didn't actually check that.
Just lick your fingers when you're plugged in. That'll tell you real quick. No, I would test the wire. If you got power to those wires, then it's the outlet.
and you can go with a number of testers on up to the big sophisticated on to, they sell these at any hardware store. You power it up, and if you hold it next to a hot 110 volt or 220 volt, it'll turn red and indicate that it's hot. You know, and in that instance, if you've got it pulled out and your wires are hot going to it, yeah, by process of elimination, it's probably in the outlet itself. But
Or you don't have a good connection.
yeah, or the connection is poor.
Make sure most of the campers nowadays have got the twist lock on the outside.
Oh yes.
Make sure you get these tight. The ring on them. Put the plug in there. Get the plug in tight. Twist that ring. Make sure it's tight. Loose connections will build up heat. I had a guy come in this week. He had a fireplace and his furnace wasn't on one night when he came back home from work. Wondered why. So he got to check it around, and his outlet had melted on the outside. Plug-in was all charred and black in here, and it's cord plug. So he ended up buying a surge protector, a new power cord, 50 amp, and the 50 amp inlet on the outside. So that loose connection cost him almost $700 that day. So
Something else we'll run into on these twist lock connectors, which typically gravity will help keep this from happening. But So you kind of got to go in at an angle. Some folks just go in and that's it, and they don't twist down. Now, like I say, most of the time gravity will pull it to where you'll get a connection. Not always, and that gets that connection just enough that it'll really heat things up right there where that meets your trailer. No one wants that.
So if you got a 50 amp trailer and you go somewhere that's only got 30 amp, what is the recommended, like, do you hook your power,
So
you have a 31, or which mine would be 50? I would have to get something to convert it.
With a surge protector or?
The whole way, going
you
from the
shoot-
power into the, what's the best
you
route?
have
to
a
do it?
couple of options there. So if you, some places, you may only have a 30, and then they may have a regular 20 amp household out. There's a product out there that can plug into that 30 and also plug into that 20 and come down and you have 50 amps where you can plug into, but it would have to have both a 30 and a 20 in that spot. If you had 30 only and a 50 amp camper, there's an adapter that you could plug into that 30, go down, and would look like the female 50 you could plug in, but you're only going to pull 30 amps
Right.
at that point.
You're
So
only gonna have 30 amps at your disposal, not
you've
50.
got two
So
or
you
three
cut-
air
so you put that-
conditioners.
Little piece, and then you put your 50 amp power surge in your cable. That's it.
You're still only 30 amps once you adapt it down.
So do y'all have the thing that does 30 and 20 combined?
I don't have one. We've had them before. We can get them. It's not a popular item. Usually, Frogfile is the main time we sell them because they put these power pedestals up down there for the Frogfile, so we get all these guys that are trying to run their 50 amp on.
50 amp on 30 amp
We
plugs.
can get them.
Yeah, if it's something you want.
Now I got another question. Okay, if you go from 50 to 30 amp, or you go from 30 amp to a 50 amp plug, you're gonna lose one leg, because that 30 amp plug's just got one leg, but
Yes.
50 has
Yep.
two. So how does that affect the camper when you lose one leg?
So
You can't run everything.
if you've got 2-3 air conditioners, don't fire up all the air conditioners. Run it and think as though it's a 30 amp.
So you could have to figure out what circuits are on the leg.
You don't have to figure out, just
Yeah,
don't
you
run
don't
one
have
at a
to
time.
get that specific.
Yeah, you just
Don't
run one at a
more than
time.
one.
I mean, I don't have that, but I just thought.
Yeah.
You just.
You just can't run everything at
Here-
one time.
Here's an example. Say you got a fifth wheel's got an AC in the living area and one in the bedroom. What you might do is run the one in the living area during the day. As you get ready to go to bed, start shut it down. Fire the one in the bedroom. You know, what I mean, you just kind of gotta manage your power.
Right, but what I was saying is you had two separate circuits coming in, and one set would run part of the camper, and the other set would run the other part. Wouldn't
You don't lose anything.
Okay.
You're still gonna be running everything. You just can't run it all at once like you would on a 50.
Both sides will be powered.
Okay.
That's where the difference would be is your amperage.
Yeah, like you were saying, if you're on 50 amp and you've got two circuits coming in, surely they put one air conditioner on one circuit,
Yes,
one
they
air
are.
conditioner on the circuit on the other. Now, if you go to 30, you got to figure out which one of those legs is going to be the hot one. Only one of those air conditioners is going to work. It's either on the A leg or the B leg. You can't just go to this one or to that.
I think they're missing what that adapter does. That adapter is going to, when you plug into it, it will carry power down both sides of, just like your 50 amp would. So you've got 110 amps and it's coming in and it hits that adapter and it's still pushing 110 out each side. Where you're limited is your amperage. You can't. So yes, when you're plugged in with that adapter, you could go to your control panel, say you've got 3 air conditioners. You could power any one of those 3, but don't try to power more than one. And I understand where the confusion's coming in of, well, hey, if that thing's hitting that trailer and it's splitting it up, that adapter will feed both sides, both hot wires on that 50 amp cord will be fed 110 volts. you're just limited on amperage.
Well, basically what you're saying is, instead of having 25 amp going down each leg, you only have 15 amp going down each leg.
Exactly.
So then you can only one air conditioner and that's it.
Right.
You know, still if you run 2 air conditioners, nothing else in the trailer, it would still work fine because you be less than 30 amps. Well, it'd be close. It'd be running really close.
Whatever else you got running,
Right, especially when it's starting up.
But
yeah,
see,
you're probably gonna pop a breaker.
Right.
and there again, here's an example of kind of what y'all are touching on, and this comes up a lot, running the air conditioner and the microwave at the same time. So
Don't
let's
work.
say the air conditioner's on one side and the microwave's on the other. If you try to run both of them, you're still only limited to 30 amp total. So whether they're on the same circuit or on separate, most likely you're going to override the amp draw and trip a breaker. If that makes sense. And like I say, guys, I understand what the question is there. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of trying to help explain it. But.
What about the new shed system?
Well, it's not new, but I think they brought them back
Okay.
because my dad's motorhome's a 2001. He's 30 amp motorhome. He's got 2 air conditioners, and he can run both of them at the same time
Yep. That's what I got.
because it sheds back and forth. It kicks the compressor out on the one and sheds back and forth. That was made by Intelitech back then, the energy management system. Fleetwood that was common on Fleetwoods. That's what he's got. Kind of saw it go away, but now I'm seeing that it's starting to come back. So because everybody's wanting more than one air conditioner. I mean the campers are getting bigger. With global warming, obviously we got everybody's wanting to be cooler. So with those type systems, yeah, they shed back and forth. It'll kick the compressor off, probably leave the fan running, and it just goes to the rear one or the front one, and vice versa. So
Are you going to talk about solar at all?
we did. What do you need? What else do you?
I mean, what it does and what you can do with it and all that.
Well, we did.
But you're not, that's it. What you want.
What's your question?
What's your question about? Yes.
Well, I didn't know if you were going to get into any depth about hooking that up.
Well,
Never mind.
yeah. If you got a question, yeah, we'll talk after this.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that on adding solar, that's kind of a custom thing where, what would be involved in setting that up, or times it's something we gotta get in here and look at it and see what is
Solar
available and what we can do.
depends on what your expectations are. What are you trying to accomplish with it? That's where you get into how much money you want to put into it. I mean, if you've got the room and you want to be able to run the whole thing on
We've got
solar,
it's got
I mean,
thousands
if you want to put $15,000 to $20,000 in it, you can run everything. So I mean, it just depends on. We got a guy that works for us that outfitted his motorhome. He's strictly solar and 12 volt. Put a 12 volt fridge in it. He's got a 110 air conditioner on it. I think he's just got one. But he's got
a battery pack that,
he's probably got 10 or 12
10 or
batteries.
12 batteries.
Lead acid batteries.
Oh,
Not lithium, but he's one with lead acid. So, but he's our 12 volt guy, and that's what he did because he was living in it for a while. Wanted to be self sufficient, but it takes a lot. Yes, sir.
One thing you gotta watch too is I pulled up to park, plugged it in, 50 amp, it's 50 amp. Went inside, tried to turn some lights on or whatever, they wouldn't come on. Tried to find out one side of that plug was out. So I wasn't getting the full 50 amps. So
Your light still should have come on.
That's where you need a surge.
That's what the surge protector would have told you it wasn't safe to plug in.
I didn't have one at that time.
You got one now?
I got one now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that keeps you from. You plug that surge protector in first. It'll tell you as long as it's safe. Then plug your cord into it. plug that in first, and it'll do its checks and give you the green light. And once it's safe, then you can plug your camper in and flip the breaker on. Some people flip the breaker on, off and on the post just while they're doing it. I mean, it's your call. But, you can plug that in first, then plug your cord in once it's safe.
What else? Right, guys.
You're done a little early. You have an extra donut.
Yeah,
now.
I want to thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
I wish y'all a Merry Christmas. Have a good weekend. Hope those of you will be with friends and family. We hope that's all of you. But
Is that the door prize?
I wish you.
Is that the door prize, or did you
Yep,
forget to talk about that?
No one got the prize donut.